Going global. So, we will be discussing the phases of development, how actually companies started venturing into being a global company. So, initially, if you look at, let us move to the next page. These are the tables. Okay, I'm using two tables. These two tables sums up everything, the phenomena, the characteristics from for each phase. That is, if you look at the global dimension of a company prior to being a global company, a company goes through a domestic phase. That is, it looks at the domestic market, caters to the demands of the domestic market. We call it the domestic phase. Then the second phase is multi-domestic phase, wherein we started catering, apart from the domestic clients, we started exporting our products to other countries, multi-domestic. And the process rather, we don't take into consideration the diversity of the culture into here. Whatever product features are there, we simply export it to another country without taking into consideration any cultural differences that exist between the domestic market and any other foreign market. Then the multinational phase is the third phase, wherein we look at the multinational phase. That is, the importance of culture significantly is reduced here. Then again, the global phase. This is indeed regarded as the final phase, but some scholars says that this is not the final phase. Okay, and here again, after the impact of culture is drastically reduced in case of multinational phase, and again, there is importance of culture, impact of culture in global phase. So these are some of a particular depiction of the phases here on the horizontal, this one. Whereas in the vertical, you can see, okay, this vertical column, competitive strategy, look from the competitive strategy, how these companies basically look at its phase. Okay, suppose for a company which is at a domestic phase, the competitive strategy is domestic. Whereas in case of multi-domestic phase, the competitive strategy is multi-domestic. Likewise, in case of multinational phase, the strategy, competitive strategy is multinational. And again, in case of global phase, the competitive strategy adopted by the company is global. Look at this second characteristics, that is importance of world business for a company in case of domestic phase. Okay, say suppose a company whose primary market is domestic, the country itself, then the importance of world business to this company is very minimal, the marginal, not much impact. Whereas in case of multi-domestic phase, then the importance of world business started dominating and it became an important factor. Whereas in case of multinational phase, it's extremely important, and in case of global phase, importance of world business becomes very dominant. So likewise, primary orientation, then product service type of development emphasize R&D. These are some of the characteristics. Okay, these characteristics for each phases of an organization, right from the domestic phase till it become a global company, are presented here in this table. Okay, so look at the second table. It is corporate the cross-cultural evolution. That is, say, for a company, how the cross-cultural perspective of the organization get evolved from the first phase, that is domestic phase, to the final global phase. So if you look at the strategy, domestic, primary orientation, product, then perspective, okay, cultural sensitivity, it's marginally important, isn't it? For domestic cultural sensitivity, for a country, for a company catering to its domestic market, okay, its sensitivity to culture is no doubt there. Existence is very marginal, almost negligent. Whereas in case of the company doing business with other countries, started exporting, the second phase becomes important. And in case of multinational phase, the importance gradually decreases here in this third phase. But again, in the final phase, global phase, it becomes very predominantly important. Okay, so this is table depicts a company's cross-cultural evolution. Okay, so let us move on to next this slide. So every this one phase has been discussed here. So we'll be moving on to other phases too. So in the first phase, domestic phase, most firms initially operated from a domestic, that is ethnocentric perspective. Firms produce unique products and services that they offer almost exclusively to the domestic market. So when I say domestic phase, the market is domestic. Okay, so did not have to do business with other markets, that is other foreign countries. You are catering to a specific domestic market. So mostly operated within the confines of a country, domestic. Name itself says. Okay, so it is the product service and international competition negative. The firms need to demonstrate sensitivity to national cultural differences. What I say is because of the lack of competition or competition posed by other foreign players, there is no need to make any consideration for the cultural aspect, that is cultural sensitivity. Okay, they don't have so much cultural sensitivity because the market itself is domestic. No foreign players here. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. There was some interruption. I thought to stop it, but okay. Some connectivity issue rises. Some notice pop up. So exports. Okay. Regarding exports of product, hear my voice. Okay. As far as exports are concerned, yes, it export products without any uh, alteration, without doing any modification. So the export product as it is to other markets too. So even acceptance for foreign market clients is irrespective of the currencies and consideration for the consultations. And one very important aspect is the initial phase, people.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Sir. Yeah.
Issues are still there. Okay. So everything, okay, all policies, okay, this one, policies, strategies are dominated by the headquarter countries, okay, managers, okay, that is firms in the domestic phases regard cross-cultural management and global human resource management systems as largely irrelevant. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of a domestic phase. Then let us move on to the second phase, that is multi-domestic phase. When I say multi-domestic, yes, that is you are expanding your business to other foreign countries. And slowly you will start considering, okay, start looking at the cultural differences as one very important component as far as selling your product is concerned. You will start assuming the importance of culture here in this phase. So domestic competition usured in the second phase, that is slowly there is competition, domestic competition in the market, in the domestic market. So you will start looking for exporting your products, expanding your product, expanding your horizon to other countries. So you will slowly start looking at the needs of other markets other than the domestic market, and you will start producing products. So technology, if you look at the technology, when you are defining your market, the domestic market, then there is only one your product philosophy. Hello. Yes, could you hear me? Hello. One very important. Okay, one very important characteristics that you can observe in this multi-domestic phase is the sensitivity of cultural differences. In the first phase, domestic phase, no much sensitivity, importance were given to cultural sensitivity. But here in this case, you have to look at the cultural differences of different markets. So cultural sensitivity becomes a important component for this phase. Then in case of product orientation has shifted okay, from a domestic product. Products. As far as product, this is not to be taken. Home representatives modify the styles to conform to the needs of the foreign countries, association with the kinds and colors in the foreign country with Indian wear. If you look at the design and mounting of certain appropriate products and services, this process becomes critical in worldwide production. And the need, their the need for all phases, multinational phase. So by 1980s, many industries have entered this particular phase, the multinational phase. If you look at the competitive environment for the industries, is again giving rise to demands for culturally sensitive management practices within each firm. And a number of companies produce, okay, almost indifferent products, practically commodities, with prices defining their only potential significant competitive advantage. That is, multinational companies started producing products with no much differentiation. And price becomes one of the most determining factor. So price and therefore sensitive perspective. Cultural awareness started slowly declining its importance. So price competition amongst almost identical products and services produced by various multinational companies somehow neglects the importance of differentiation or differentiating the cultural impact on the design and the marketing aspect. And it started treating the entire different markets as one without much consideration for the cultural differences. Okay, so the primary market becomes global with almost no geography-based market segmentation. There's no much segmentation of the market. And the entire world as such is viewed as one market, so no much product differentiation. It somehow, this phase has downplayed the very impact of cultural differences on product design to the marketing. Okay, that is one least cost way for this particular multinational phase. So firms can get competitive advantage only through process engineering, sourcing critical factors on a worldwide basis, and benefiting from economies of scale. So they look at price as a determining factor important whether your products can be sold in this market or not. How much consideration is paid as far as cultural differences is concerned. Okay, so let us move on to the final phase, that is the last, that is the global phase. In this case, global phase, again, importance of culture is identified. Competitive advantage comes from strategic thinking, mass customization, and outlearning one's competitor. That is, competition no doubt is there. For your company to harness competitive advantage, you should have, okay, master some strategic thinking plus mass customization and even outlearning your competitor. So product and service ideas are drawn from worldwide sources and are the factors, okay, as are the factors and location of production. Critical components of this type of market segmentation are nationality and ethnicity. Okay, so here it becomes the important roles of cultural differences once again. So culture once again becomes a very critical competitive factor. In the global phase, the exclusive product sales or price orientation of past phases almost completely disappears. Okay, so exclusive product sales or price orientation of past phases completely disappears. Companies replaces these individual orientations with a culturally responsive design orientation, accompanied by a rapid worldwide and least cost production function. So in case of global phase, once again, the importance of nationality and ethnicity, that is segmenting your market on the basis of nationality and ethnicity, once again becomes a predominant factor. So the importance of culture once again in this phase. So to sum up today's discussion, yes, if you look at an organization, when it initially started functioning till it goes global can be divided into, yes, how many phases? 4 phases. The first phase is the domestic phase. The second phase is multi-domestic phase. The third phase is multinational phase, and the last phase is global phase. In case of domestic phase, yes, what was the takeaway? The takeaway was you are catering to the needs of the domestic market. Okay, so you identify the segment, you cater to the needs and wants of this particular segment. You employ units in product design, even in marketing, to cater to your need, clients, to fulfill, satisfy your clients. So now much significant impact of cultural differences in this phase because you are specifically catering to your domestic market. Yes, no doubt. You may export your product to other countries, foreign countries, but without undergoing any product changes in the product design or the marketing strategy. And the foreign clients accept your products. Competitive because of the competition in the domestic market. We started looking for expanding your market to other different countries. So slowly, you have to take into consideration the needs and aspirations of clients of other foreign countries. Here in multi-domestic fees, you started slowly paying, okay, incorporating product modifications to suit the cultural differences of the clients. In case of multinational phase, yes, the important multinational phase, cultural differences again, its impact started diminishing because during this phase, almost all the multinational companies started thinking that it is the price factor which dominates all other features. So price becomes a predominant feature here. Okay. So culture has very little to do with this particular phase. Again, in case of global phase, yes, nationality and ethnicity started dominating the market once again. So the culture again become predominant here. Okay, so these are the takeaways of today's discussion. It's a short class. So let me. I request a volunteer to take a screenshot so that I can mark your attendance. And thank you very much for joining my class.
Thank you,
We'll
sir.
meet again tomorrow.